homemade.
Go ahead and please introduce yourself.
My name is Susan Ibitz. Some people call me human behavior hacker because some people hack computers. I hack humans. But my academic title for all the books behind the yes, I read them. I'm a behavior neuroscience. And it's funny how life through a curve, and sometimes you don't listen to the first one, you listen to the second, and the third one, it kick you in the back of the head. And that's what I am here, a behavioral neuroscience. I think is the best way to define me.
Love it. And you've got a story to share with us today. Where in this world does this story begin?
Long short story. It started with how my parents ended up together. My mom was a stewardess in first class in Panama. My dad was a diplomat. They met on the first class. My mom asked my dad, "What do you want to drink? What do you want?" And he says, "Marrying you." 45 days later, they were married, not because they were pregnant with me. They had me 3 years later. So I grew up in a family where my dad was an artist, diplomat. My mom was a crazy chick who followed my dad. So nothing was normal in my life. So when I was between 8 and 13, my dad believed on quality time with our kids. They have 4. So my quality time with my dad was watching Colombo and knowing about the stories about the Italian family. Later, I find out that we're coming from Calabria. And my grandfather need to leave Calabria because he took the eye of a guy who was looking on his girlfriend. Holy cow, that's my genes. So I'm 13 and says, okay, I'm going to do a profiler on the FBI. I have everything set it up. I ended up high school early. I went to college at 16. And they told me that I'm either stupid or I have a learning disability. I found out that I have highly dyslexia. So depressed, come back home and like, what the heck am I going to be doing? So I decided to move from South America. That's where my dad was stationed at that point, and went to Belgium and Europe to start trying to study with everybody on the field. And that is kind of the first and second story because dyslexia, failure, not swimming with sharks, instead to get to a destination in first class American Airlines like I was prepared in the beginning. With lovely story, maybe like the my mom and dad have. And I ended up bartending in a high-end hotel where I didn't know they were all high-end scores, ladies of the night. And that's where I have my first approach to human behavior. They're like, this is all money. That where political consulting came to me and says, how you are 17, you are the pimple of the bar, you have the biggest tips and you barely talk the language. And it says, because people want to know 5 things. How you're doing, what's going on, tell me more, tip is not included, do you want another drink? And people, I understood that they want to be seen, heard, and understood that the only thing human being needs in order to feel fulfilled. So he offered me a position as a political consultant, and my only answer at that point, 17 broke, like, if you pay more than the bar, let's go for it. 18 years later, burned out, doing political campaigns all around the world, already in the United States. I says, okay, I'm done. 36, like, I don't know, I'm the most educated, ignorant person in the world because I was really good at my field, like it happened to many people, and what I do now. And then I went back to London. That was the last time that I was living before I came to the United States. I studied for a master, and I didn't know my agency was involved between the students. So I was called out and says, well, we want to recruit you. And says, why? I'm stupid. Like, no, your IQ is high out the charts. Like, you are rolling with a genius. And like, no, I'm stupid. Like, no, the problem is we don't know if you're autistic or Asperger. And like, what? Asperger, you need to realize I'm 53. 20 years ago, Asperger is like, what? That is German for the plague? Like, what are you talking about? So I got tested. They told me, okay, you are Asperger, dyslexic. It's really weird to find people like you. We have 6 of every 10 profilers that we have on the team. And the only thing I think is like, wait a minute, I'm not stupid. I can go back to the United States and study. And the guy come back and says, do you understand we're going to recruit you? I don't care. I come back to United States. When I come back in the United States, somebody approached me and says, with all your background, why don't you go and study hostage negotiator? This is, I'm not going to be a police giving tickets for 6 months to be on the behavioral unit. I ended up being the only civilian hostage negotiator, level 3, international certified. And how I use that Well, after that, I went to Harvard to study negotiation with law, and those are my paths. And I'm so sorry that
That's okay. Yeah. Just you can just
we're talking about irrational things. Do I need to have 6 cats? We're going to go over rational behavior because that's what I specialize studying. So long story short, I make this career in pieces. And one of the things that one of my mentors that introduced us, lovely
Mitch Russo.
Renova, Mitch Russo, says, you are only selling, you are selling politicians, you are selling a 10 by 10 with an orange jumpsuit, 3 free meals. Now, what you're selling is intelligent and make companies understand that irrationality and understand their people. And that's where I get interested in behavioral economics. And that's where it hit me. That is the third or fourth strike when life hit me on the back of the head. It says, you're not traditional. You're not rational. Maybe as another people like you and your path, the best thing that happened to you is your path was broken in the beginning. And that was true. And that's where I started making my own path. So I did my master in behavioral economics, rational humans. That's what I understand, that people make 35,000 decisions a day. 95% are irrational because of the Nobel Prize Kahneman in 2002, because we have Homer Simpson. That's how I ended up with 6 cats and 850 pair of shoes, and I'm barefoot at this point. And Albert Einstein. Do we need Albert Einstein changing a light bulb? No. And guess what? You, me, your wife, your friends, everybody's irrational. So understanding human behavior. And I'm fascinated with the brain. And now I was accepted on the neuromarketing and neuroscience program. And I choose the neuromarketing program because I can do it online. Nobody want to accept me with 6 cats, neither at any airline money. So I need to stay here. I can do it online, but I'm fascinated with irrational because my life was irrational. If I can see my life in bullet points as the heck, this is wicked. How I ended up with it, I wouldn't change one wrong turn than I did in my life. I love all the mistakes. I love all the days that I wake up and I don't want to do something that lead me to another thing. And I love that about my life. I don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what is going to happen after I talk with you. And that's life. And I take it. I don't fight it.
You know, the thought that came to mind while you were telling your story is that it's impossible to connect the dots moving forward in your life and in your career, right? Like I can't think, oh, in 10 years it's going to look exactly like this. I can formulate a little plan, but then you get punched in the face.
And that is the best part. You know what? When people says, where do you want to be in 5 years? No freaking idea. It says, well, you don't know what you want. Like, I do know what I want. I want to go through life with openness, with the mind. People says, I'm meditated and doing this and that. Like, what about open the door of your house and see what's going on? Listen to the people. Go to the cashier in the supermarket and you see somebody else who has been mean with that person, and go to the cashier and says, you know what? You have been amazing, super professional. That guy was, and this sort of punch in the face, and you were professional, and you leave that person better than when you find it, and you learn from that experience. That is what life give you. And that's what I'm saying. I didn't learn on the first one, second, and probably I missed so many signs and I'm going to be missing so many more. But my awareness is not to keep missing those signs and live the life the way I need to live. Do I want to live like my grandmother, 103? I'm not sure, but I want to live the life that I live open and saying the day I close my eyes, I live my life on my way, Frank Sinatra. That is going to be my mantra.
You know, when I went through what we went through with our first son on that and trying to connect the dots of like what that was supposed to instruct us and everything on, because we sued the hospital that our son was born at, and we lost. It was only 2023. It was a crazy experience. We were in there, courtroom, all the proof, all the thing. It was ridiculous. Honestly, it makes me want to get into law just to fix it with AI, because it would have been way more productive for us to just like list out everything on a thing and let that make the decision. It was bananas. So I look back, I have no idea why I went through that experience. It still has not become clear to me. And there's a lot of things that are like that. I feel like I'm still in the throes of what happened with leaving the Mormon church. You know, here I am recently like fasting and getting all buddy buddy with God and like reorienting organizing my belief in God and what that concept means to me. And we left 6 years ago, almost exactly 6 years ago. And then like the decision to make ayahuasca, right? Or to do ayahuasca, probably irrational. Like not the best idea that I've ever had.
Never again. Only one time. I
Only
found
one.
drugs.
I Look, it was super instructive, but it also kicked my butt, and I keep to these experiences, and there's a whole list of them where it's very difficult for me to feel grateful for those decisions. So I am grateful because here I am, and I have my house, and I have my kids, and I have my beautiful wife, and all these wonderful things, and I got this great podcast and all these awesome guests. I have a lot to be grateful for. Um, but
Did you
the
ever think about I don't know if you know the story about Einstein, that he was sent home when he was 5, saying that he was stupid.
Yeah, he had like a note stapled to his
Yeah, like
yeah.
he's stupid, don't keep fighting. And look, in a wheelchair, agitated state, he was one of the biggest, greatest minds. From being in a Star Trek as an icon to revolutionizing everything. Maybe your path and your wife is to be the parents of other stories. Maybe is to revolutionize science. Maybe this it's you haven't found your path because all this anger that is natural as a parent when you're going through. I don't have kids, but I cannot imagine the anger to fight a fight. But what we don't understand as humans, that a fight is not only in the ring. The fight sometimes happen on the street, on the corner, on the hospital, on getting a foundation to making a podcast. Maybe the fight is a path that you're so running to look for the end that you're not understanding the journey is the path you need to fight. Make sense what I'm saying?
Boy, the journey has been far out, to be sure. And here I am, the podcast has become one of my favorite things that I've ever created. And I had to, I had a bit less on it in order to go and like close some deals for my businesses, right? Because my businesses were having issues. So I had to go and like fix some stuff, and I had to put the podcast a little bit on pause when I thought that it was going to be like, this is what I want. I want a podcast and I want to play Legos with my kids and I just want to like meet cool ass people and run my mastermind and be good. But the answer was no. It would appear that wasn't that like I haven't been allowed to live that dream. And so that either tells me that I'm impatient or that that's not the right dream, that that's not what I'm supposed to be working on.
What
That I
about trial and error, Eric? What about a human? Again, we need to understand 95% of the decisions we make are irrational because we always think that is something better, that we are wrong because people tell us. We put so much weight and people says, no, you need to make money. You don't need to be wasting time talking with people and go. Actually, our calendar was crazy today and we made it here. And the first, as soon as we get to the call, there wasn't like, oh, we need to change the time, this and like, tell me about you. And it was extremely moved. And you never know who you're going to meet and how that person is going to resonate in your life or how you're going to be resonating in that people in that person's life. On the person who's listening to, because they have a kid in your situation, because they have Asperger, because they have dyslexia, because they have HAD, you never know. But the point is that maybe the concept of mistakes are only if you don't learn anything from them. You are on a path of learning. A doctor want to be a doctor, but they need to make 10 years of mistakes before they become a surgeon. And maybe you haven't become a surgeon yet. You're still on the path of learning. So being hard with yourself is not a way to learn in life. Is be grateful with yourself and like, okay, I made a mistake. In order not to become a mistake, what did I learn? What I can do better with that.
Thankfully, I am a neurotic journaler. I was journaling yesterday, and oftentimes my thoughts are just the 95% that you're talking about, just absolute dog shit, irrational, That helps me find clarity in a lot of ways. And I've developed a habit of going through and making sure that I do have takeaways and learnings. What I've been trying to do recently, especially, and this is a tip for everybody listening, is when you find yourself when you a like strong resistance or you make a big mistake, you want to evaluate the habits that ended up getting you there and try to develop an atomic habit, right? Like write it down. Okay, when I do this, I do this.
To avoid those situations. That has helped me tremendously.
Action
Right.
consequences.
Yep. Do this. This is what happens. So I'm going to make sure that I don't ever have to be faced with the scenario where that's the action that I'm taking. And I'm going to build my life in such a way where my habits are cohesive for that vision that I have for my future
You
life.
take
So
as a habit, as an atomic habit perception, or as a storytelling of your life to rewrite your story. Because if you talk about storytelling, I'm going to tell you something amazing that I found out not so far away. So is your storytelling of your own life to keep track in your life? It's to change habit. Why you're journaling? Because it's not what you do, it's why you do it. It's more important the question than the answer. So when you're journaling, you're questioning yourself, and the journal is an answer. But if the questions are not right, that even the event or the things that happen in your life, the journal never going to have a sense beside that hieroglyphic that are going to die in a box. Make sense what I'm saying?
For sure. I've been journaling since I was 7, technically 4,
Wow.
because my mom dictated my journal for me. And it was like, I love my toys, my friends, And then over the years, it starts to get longer or shorter, or you can see my handwriting improve, which is kind of nice, and then get worse. It's kind of funny. I have periods of years where I've never missed a day. And so part of it was number one is just a catalog of what is happening. I do like looking back on the record and being able to be like, oh, I know exactly where I was when, that album released. I have the date right here. This was what my day was like. But I'm journaling because I sometimes feel like a crazy person. I get so stressed and I get so overwhelmed and I catch myself in these patterns, and I have just bombarded myself with meditations and breathing and exercise and good eating, good habits. I started the BYU boxing club in college. You know what though?
I broke these two boxing, and it was the most resilient pleasure cane. And some people like, what the heck? Like, broken my knuckles. Boxing was the most, because I get that anger and I face my demons and I put it in a punching bag instead to the person that I shoot it. And I realized was better. But sometimes punching things is good, man.
You're talking
Punching.
You're talking to someone who has boxed since they were 14 years old. I literally put myself through college teaching boxing lessons to all the kids in the neighborhood.
You see, okay, your anger, that for a rebellious kid, you could have done drugs, street fights. No, you centralize, you help other people to canalize the right way, and you put yourself to college. You see how you have a story, are so hard with yourself that you don't understand that the stories have what is define you. You was born to storytelling.
Tell me what to do, Susan. Where do I go with what's my next step?
If I have the ball, I would be talking with you because I would be having vacations in the Caribbean. But what I can tell you is the DoD and DARPA has been studied storytelling as to treat PTSD, and it's a way to influence people, but most important, influence to yourself. There's a really good book called The Secret Life of Pronouns, where they talk about PTSD and trauma. And they realize that when the people can do storytelling by writing, when you put the story in a paper, it's less heavy. And when you can review the story. So I can send you of all the studies you want, but when I found out that DoD and DARPA put so many $1 million and researchers to work in storytelling as I working in PTSD, I'm like, wait a minute, I think I misread it. My dyslexia, and I read it again and again, like, oh, that start making sense. Because I've been working with storytelling. I always says you have 3 stories. Your story, Eric, my story, and the story that we today wrote together. And if from all the millions of people or 100 people you have in your audience, we change one thing, that is the 3rd story we wrote. And you don't have any right to keep your story to yourself. You need to pair with somebody else's story to make a 3rd story to change somebody's life. That is what storytelling is. I think journaling, the vision boards I don't care about vision board. I'm a left person. I have Asperger. I need to neutralize emotions because I don't understand emotions. I'm not a regular empath, but I'm trying to rationalize emotions. When I have a storyboard, a reminder of the things I'm going to miss if I don't get my ass on the chair and I don't do what I do. And procrastination by perfection is my worst mistake. So I don't have the right to keep the story to myself. I need to pair my story with somebody else. I never did a podcast like yours. And I don't want to be offensive, but in another point in my life, this will be too much wushu for me until I understand that if you and I were put in the same place from the person that we were placed, it's a meaning. It's because a third story we need to be writing, and we don't have the right to stop that story to happen. So storytelling vision boards are a reminder that those stories need to be writing, and those stories need to be helping someone. And you're going to need to write your own story in your own path. Nobody can tell you what, how, when, where, nothing. Is your own story. And in this case, the second story is your wife. And the third story is the fruit of that story. There are your kids.
Kiddos.
And I'm sure because you're a really thoughtful person and your wife too, what you having gone through, you're going to find your path. But until you don't make mistakes, until you don't fall on the ground and bleed the nose, you're not going to know what is the path. Because nobody grows something without making mistakes.
Susan, where can everyone find you?
Google my name, Susan Ibitz. You're going to find the most weird things. I've been called wicked, weird, better things and weird things. But you can go to susanibitz.com. You can Google me and LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm more than happy. I want to include you in my thread. We have a newsletter. I have a podcast on humans because I love how irrational things can lead us to the best path. Again, the best decision I have done in my life was ended up failing foster failing these 6 cats. And my lawyer says, you're going to end up single. Guess what? I met a guy who is extremely allergic to cats. He went to the allergist, and guess what? He has 6 dogs. So he says, I only can be with a person who has 6 cats because I have 6 dogs. So you never know the paths that your irrational decision can take you. So he was looking for somebody as crazy as he is, and match made in heaven. You never know.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks to you.
This has been the Pulse Ox Podcast. Please, if you found this episode valuable, give us a like on Spotify and share it with a friend.